They didn't sell me for love, they sold me because my womb was empty. The room smelled of sweat, leather, and smoke. A hall built not for celebration, but for spectacle. Wooden beams loomed above, torches flaring on stone walls, their shadows stretching like hungry claws across the crowd. And me, standing in the center, bare feet pressing into cold concrete, a collar heavy around my throat. My name didn't matter here. To them, I was no more than a label stamped across my chest. Barren. The whispers buzzed louder than the fire. She's worthless. Not even fit to breed a stable dog. Who would pay coin for her? Each word was a blade, slicing through what little dignity I still clung to. My hands trembled, but I locked my spine straight, refusing to bow. They wanted me broken. They wanted me to cry. And though my world had already burned, I wouldn't give them that. A sharp tug on the chain around my neck forced me forward. My knees scraped the stone as I stumbled into the spotlight of torchlight. The auctioneer, a grizzled wolf with yellow teeth and colder eyes, held me in place like merchandise. Tonight, his voice thundered, we sell the forgotten, the ones with no use, no future, no legacy. And first on the block, he jerked my chain, yanking my head high. The Barren one. The hall erupted in cruel laughter. I shut my eyes for a heartbeat, sucking in air, tasting iron. Rage burned hotter than shame in my chest. Barren. The word had stalked me since girlhood, whispered behind my back, spat in my face, carved into my worth like a brand. But tonight, that brand was up for sale. The auctioneer listed my name, my age, my family's shame. He spoke of me as if I were cattle, good only for labor, for service, for the pity of a coin tossed into a pit. Worthless for breeding, he sneered, but perhaps of use to someone who needs a pair of hands. Shall we begin the bidding? Murmurs swelled. Some laughed, others scoffed, and a few men leaned forward with a gleam in their eyes that made my stomach turn. I lifted my chin anyway. If they were going to buy me, they would look me in the eye when they did it. And then, he walked in. The air shifted before I even saw him. A silence rippled through the hall like a wave retreating before a storm. Boots struck the floor with steady, unhurried weight. Shadows parted and he appeared at the edge of the crowd. The Alpha. The greasy-haired man smirked, already tasting victory. My stomach churned at the thought of being dragged into whatever filth awaited me in his home. And then, 50? The word sliced through the room like a blade. Gasps echoed, heads whipped toward the voice, and there he stood, Alpha. His hand raised, his gaze never leaving mine. 50 coins, 10 times what anyone expected, 10 times more than my life was deemed worth. The hall erupted into chaos. 50? For her? Has he lost his mind? She's Barren. What use is she? The greasy-haired bidder's jaw dropped, fury flashing across his face. This is absurd, he shouted. But the auctioneer only stammered, eyes wide with greed. 50 coins offered. Do I hear 60? Silence. No one dared challenge him. No one dared oppose the Alpha. And me? My body trembled, my mind spinning. Why? Why would he spend so much on me? The Alpha's lips curved, just faintly. Not a smile. A claim. Sold, the auctioneer croaked. Sold to the Alpha. Chains rattled as I was shoved forward. The crowd parted like prey scattering from a predator. My feet dragged, my heart pounding against my ribs. When I reached him, I dared a glance up. His eyes caught mine again, pulling me into a darkness that felt like gravity. And then, it happened. He lifted his hand, not just to pay, not just to take, but to claim. Mine, he said, his voice low, final, resonant enough to shake through bone. Gasps rippled through the hall. A murmur of shock and disbelief thundered behind me. An Alpha claiming me, the Barren one, as his before the entire pack. My breath caught in my throat. My world tilted. Because in that moment, I wasn't just sold. I was chosen. The Alpha's claim sent shockwaves through the hall, while my heart thundered with a fear I didn't yet understand. He paid for me like property, but his voice whispered like a vow. The hall had gone deathly still, the kind of silence that clung to walls long after sound should have faded. I felt every pair of eyes on me, burning, judging, whispering the same word they always had, Barren. But that wasn't what haunted me in this moment. It was the weight of his hand. The Alpha's palm closed around my wrist as if claiming not only my body, but my existence. His grip wasn't cruel, but firm, steady, unyielding, like iron shaped by intent. Mine. The word echoed, filling every corner of the hall, lodging itself in my chest where my heart should have been. The auctioneer's lips fumbled, his voice trembling. Sold. Sold to the Alpha for 50 coins. Murmurs rippled. Some gasped. Others laughed nervously, too afraid to mock him outright but desperate to relieve the pressure pressing down on the room. 50 coins for her? Has he lost his senses? An Alpha wasting gold on a Barren mate? Madness. I lowered my gaze, blood rushing to my face. The collar at my throat seemed heavier than ever. I wanted to ask him why, to demand what madness drove this choice. But my tongue stuck like stone in my mouth. The Alpha released my wrist only to slide payment across the table, coins spilling like water, each clink louder than the last. A small fortune. My value, rewritten in shining metal. Property. That's what I was now. Bought and paid for. But when his hand brushed mine again as the chain was passed into his possession, sparks shot beneath my skin. My breath caught. It wasn't supposed to feel like this. His fingers lingered against mine for the briefest second, deliberate, testing. And though my mind screamed at me to pull away, my body leaned closer. Heat curled in my stomach, dangerous, unfamiliar. He noticed. His lips twitched, not quite a smile, more like recognition. The crowd roared again. He's bewitched. She'll destroy him. No Alpha survives with a Barren mate. The pack will revolt. The Alpha ignored them all. He turned to me, lowering his voice so only I could hear. You'll walk beside me, he said, blinked, startled. Beside you? His eyes narrowed, sharp as steel. I don't drag what I claim. I lead, and you will follow, at my side. Confusion twisted inside me. No one had ever spoken to me like that. Not as property, not as less. The auctioneer, sensing the tension of the hall, clapped his hands. Well then, the Alpha has made his purchase. Next lot. But no one was listening. Not when the Alpha turned, chain still in his grasp, and pulled me forward. The crowd parted like shadows fleeing the light. Some bowed their heads in respect. Others sneered behind their hands. Every step I took beside him was heavier than the last. Why? I whispered, when the din of the hall faded behind us. His pace slowed. The torchlight flickered across his jaw, sharp and unreadable. Why what? Why me? My throat tightened around the words. Why 50 coins? For me. He didn't answer immediately. His silence pressed harder than any insult. Finally, he glanced down at me, eyes dark as midnight. Because sometimes the world throws away what it doesn't understand. And what it throws away, I claim. My heart stumbled. That wasn't an answer. It was a riddle. You don't know me, I whispered. His lips curved, faint amusement ghosting across them. Don't I? Before I could question him further, voices rose from behind. The greasy-haired man, the one who had bid 5 coins, stormed toward us, face red with fury. This is madness, he shouted. 50 coins for her? A barren female? You shame your own bloodline. Gasps rippled through the smaller crowd that had followed. His audacity was dangerous. To insult an Alpha in public was a death wish, but the Alpha only turned, slow, deliberate. The weight of his stare pinned the man where he stood. Do you challenge me? His voice was soft, too soft. The greasy-haired man faltered, sweat beading on his brow. No, Alpha. I only meant... The Alpha stepped closer, his presence swallowing the man whole. What I spend, who I claim, that is mine to decide. Question me again, and it will be your blood on this floor. The man stumbled back, nearly tripping over himself in retreat. The crowd hissed with nervous laughter, eager to see him squirm. The Alpha turned back to me as if nothing had happened. His hand brushed mine again, guiding me forward. You see? Already they question. Already they doubt. But they will learn. Learn what? I asked before I could stop myself. He leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. That what they call Barren may yet hold more power than they know. A shiver ran down my spine. I wanted to demand what he meant, to tear the truth from his lips, but his tone left no room for more. We walked in silence until we reached the heavy doors of the hall. Guards bowed low, opening them wide. Beyond stretched the night, stars scattered like silver across the sky. The Alpha paused at the threshold. His hand still held the chain attached to my collar. I waited for him to tug, to lead me like the property I was. Instead, he unfastened it. The collar clattered to the floor between us. I froze, stunned. Why? His gaze pierced me, steady, unyielding. Because no one walks at my side in chains. My throat tightened, words refusing to form. He stepped past me into the night air, his shadow stretching long across the ground. For a moment, I remained frozen, staring at the collar like it was proof the world had shifted beneath my feet. Then his voice cut through the night, low and commanding. Come. I followed. Not because I was chained, but because something deeper than fear pulled me toward him. We hadn't gone far when the hall doors burst open again. Voices carried into the night. He's lost his mind. Our Alpha bought a barren mate. He'll doom us all. The words stung, each one sharper than the last. I wanted to shrink, to curl into myself, to run. But his hand brushed mine again. Steady, grounding. Listen, he murmured. I don't want to, I admitted, voice breaking. You must. His tone hardened. Because every whisper, every insult, every doubt, they will be your fire. You will learn to burn with it, not hide from it. Tears pricked my eyes, but I held them back. His words weren't gentle, but they were armor. Armor I didn't know I needed until now. And then, before the gathering crowd, before the entire pack that had mocked me all my life, he did something no one expected. He stopped, turned, faced them, and with his hand on mine, his voice steady as stone, he said it again. Mine. The word carried like thunder, rolling across the night. The crowd gasped, some shouted, others cursed under their breath. But no one could deny the weight of his declaration. I trembled, caught between fear and something far more dangerous, hope. Because in that single word, before all who had ever despised me, the Alpha made me more than property. He made me his. The crowd's roar swelled, half in outrage, half in disbelief, while I stared at him, wondering what hidden truth tied him to me so fiercely. If I was Barren, then why did his touch set my blood on fire? The night air clung to me, cool against skin still burning from his claim. Mine. The word wouldn't leave me. It echoed in my bones, in the very space between my breaths, and yet, as the Alpha led me through the darkened streets, I couldn't tell if the fire inside me was fear, or something far more dangerous. The pack's whispers followed us like ghosts. A Barren mate? He'll ruin us all. What spell has she cast on him? Every word was a dagger I'd heard before, but tonight each one carried more weight, because tonight they weren't only about me, they were about him too. And still, he didn't falter. His hand brushed mine again, deliberate, grounding. I hated how steady it made me feel. We reached the gates of his stronghold, tall, iron, guarded by wolves who bowed instantly at his presence. Their eyes flicked to me, wide with shock, but not one dared question. Inside, the halls stretched wide, built of stone and shadow. Torches flickered against tapestries of battle and bloodlines, reminders of power earned and power defended. I walked beside him, silent, questions burning my tongue. Finally, I broke. Why did you do it? He didn't look at me. His steps remained even, measured. I told you already. No. My voice trembled, but I forced it out. Not that riddle you spoke? The truth. Why me? At last he stopped. The sudden stillness was heavier than movement. He turned, his eyes locking onto mine. And then, he reached for me. His hand slid to the curve of my neck, fingers grazing skin as if testing the air itself. My breath caught, heart slamming against my ribs. You want truth? His voice was low, dangerous. Yes, I whispered. His thumb brushed just below my jaw. Heat shot through me, wild, uncontrollable. And then, he lowered his head. His lips grazed the spot where neck met shoulder. A touch, a whisper, barely a mark. But the second his mouth pressed to my skin, my body exploded. Fire surged through my veins, searing every nerve, every corner of me that had long felt cold and unwanted. My knees buckled. A gasp tore from my throat. This wasn't supposed to happen. I was Barren. I wasn't meant to feel this. This pull, this hunger, this undeniable connection. Yet my body betrayed me. It burned for him. He pulled back slowly, his eyes sharp, searching, as if reading every reaction carved across my face. What did you do? I stammered, clutching my chest. Nothing you didn't feel, he murmured. My pulse thundered. No, it wasn't possible. Mate bonds weren't meant for me. The moon had cursed me barren. No bond, no future, no legacy. And yet here I was, trembling, breathless, consumed by a fire that had his name on it. A voice sliced through the air. Alpha. We turned. His beta stood at the end of the hall, tall, broad, eyes stormy with barely contained fury. His gaze cut to me, sharp as knives. This is a mistake, the beta growled. You know what she is, what they all say she is. The Alpha's eyes narrowed. Mind your tongue. With respect, the beta pressed on, voice lowering but not softening. Claiming her could destroy you. Destroy us all. The pack won't follow a barren queen. The word stung worse than the chain had. Barren. Always barren. But before I could crumble under it, the alpha's voice cracked like a whip. Do you question me? The beta hesitated, jaw tight. I question what this will cost. The alpha stepped forward, slow, deliberate, every inch of him radiating power. Then listen well. What I claim is mine. What I choose is law. If the pack doubts me, let them test me. If you doubt me, step forward now. The air thickened. The beta's fists clenched. For one terrifying second I thought he might. But then he dropped his gaze, jaw tight with swallowed rage. As you wish, Alpha. He turned sharply and disappeared down the hall. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My legs shook. He hates me. The Alpha's gaze flicked back to me. He fears you. Fears me? My laugh was hollow. I'm nothing. His hand cut the words off as it rose to my chin, tilting my face toward his. Say it again and I'll remind you what your body just told you. Heat flushed my skin. I wanted to deny it, to push him away. But the memory of that fire still coursed through me, undeniable. I tore my gaze from his, whispering, This isn't possible. Possible or not, he murmured. It is real. I felt it. You felt it. The bond. No. I shook my head violently. No. The moon cursed me barren. I don't have a bond. I can't. His eyes darkened, studying me like I was both mystery and answer. Then tell me why your body burns when I touch you. I had no answer. None I could admit. That night stretched into silence. He led me to chambers grander than I'd ever seen. Stone walls draped in velvet, a bed carved of oak, the air heavy with the faint scent of pine and smoke. This will be yours, he said simply. I stood at the threshold, trembling. Why are you doing this? He turned, his expression unreadable. Because sometimes what's broken is only waiting for the right hands to mend it. Before I could press further, he left me there, the door closing with finality. I collapsed onto the bed, clutching my chest, replaying his words, his touch, his mark. My skin still tingled where his lips had brushed. It wasn't possible. And yet, it was real. The next morning, the whispers had spread like wildfire. The Alpha marked her. It can't be. She's barren, she has no bond. Every eye followed me as I stepped into the courtyard. Some spat at my feet, others simply stared, waiting for me to fail. And then he appeared again. The Alpha. Without hesitation, he took my hand in full view of the pack. His fingers laced with mine, firm, certain. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He turned, gaze sweeping over them, daring any to speak. And then, for all to hear, his voice rang out, She is mine. The world tilted. My knees weakened, because the moment his hand tightened around mine, my body reacted. Heat surged, my pulse raced. The invisible tether snapped taut between us, pulling me closer, deeper, helplessly. The mate bond. Something impossible. Something real. My body burned with the impossible truth. The Alpha and I were bound. And if that was real, then everything I thought I knew about myself was a lie. They bowed to him but spit at my feet. The morning after the claim felt colder than any winter I'd ever known. When I stepped outside the Alpha's house, whispers sliced through the air sharper than blades. Wolves bowed low as my mate passed, but when their eyes fell on me, their spines straightened with defiance. They bowed to him, but spit at my feet. Barren witch. Cursed mate. She'll ruin him. You'll see. I woke to find blood smeared across my door, a crude symbol, the mark of warning. My hands shook as I scrubbed it away, but whispers spread fast. Wolves passed me with mocking smiles, and I knew Celine had started her war. That evening when the Alpha returned, I didn't tell him. I couldn't. He bore enough weight. If I confessed, he'd see me as weak, fragile, a liability. And I couldn't risk that. But lying beside him that night, his warmth steady beside me, my mind spun with fear. Because I knew Selini's kind. She didn't make empty threats. She'd strike. And when she did, she wouldn't miss. At dawn, I awoke to find my window shattered. On the sill lay a single wolf's fang, coated in fresh blood, and a note scrawled in crimson. The Alpha can't kiss death away. He didn't buy me to chain me. He bought me to save me. The pack still buzzed about the kiss. I could feel their stares like daggers slicing through my skin as I walked beside him. Some eyes burned with jealousy, others with disgust, none of them with kindness. They bowed when he passed. But when I followed, their heads stayed high, lips curled in mockery. I was invisible to their respect, visible only to their cruelty. And yet, his hand brushed mine. Barely a touch, but enough to steady the trembling I tried to hide. Inside his hall, the Alpha's walls closed around us, high stone and dark timber that smelled of cedar and smoke. A sanctuary for him. For me, a cage. I whispered the words before I could stop myself. Why did you do it? He turned, his jaw sharp under torchlight, eyes unreadable. Do what? Kiss me. Out there, in front of everyone. My voice cracked, raw from holding back too many tears these last days. The corner of his mouth lifted, but it wasn't amusement. It was almost regret. Because words weren't enough. I blinked at him, confused. Words? From an Alpha, words carried weight heavier than steel. Yet he chose a kiss. A claim. A mark for every wolf to see. But what I couldn't shake was the look in his eyes as he did it. There was fire, yes, desire, but beneath it, something else, something that looked dangerously close to protection. The following days passed with an unease that clung to the air like mist. Everywhere I went, whispers followed. She's barren. What use is she to him? He shames us with this. He'll regret it. Some voices didn't bother to whisper. A woman dropped a tray deliberately near me in the dining hall, the clatter loud enough to turn heads. Careful, empty wombs shouldn't carry weight, she sneered, her smirk slicing deeper than the shards of broken glass at my feet. I wanted to shrink, to vanish. But then, his voice cut through the room like thunder. Pick it up yourself. The woman's face drained of color. Alphas didn't need to shout. Their tone carried its own law. She bent, trembling, to gather the broken pieces. And me? I stood frozen, breath caught. He hadn't looked at me, hadn't spoken to me, yet his protection wrapped around me anyway. Why? Sparks in the quiet. That night, the moonlight spilled into my chamber. I couldn't sleep. Not when my thoughts spun tighter with every heartbeat. The door creaked. I shot up, pulse racing. It was him, the Alpha. He didn't ask permission. Alphas never did. But his steps were softer than they should have been, like he was afraid of breaking something fragile. You're awake, he said quietly. I pulled the blanket tighter. It's hard to sleep when half the pack hates you. His eyes caught the moonlight, silver and shadow all at once. They don't hate you. They fear what you represent. What's that? I demanded, bitterness spilling before I could choke it back. He paused, studying me with an intensity that made me squirm. Then softer. Change. The word lingered between us, heavy, unexplainable. He sat, not too close, but close enough for me to catch the faint scent of pine and smoke clinging to him. My heart betrayed me, stuttering. When his hand brushed mine, sparks ignited. Real sparks. Not imagined. My skin burned where he touched me, a pull deep in my chest I shouldn't have felt. Not if I was barren. Not if the bond wasn't real. I snatched my hand back, gasping. Why does this keep happening? For the first time I saw it. The crack in his armor. A flicker of guilt in his eyes. You'll understand soon, he whispered. The next day I sought answers where I shouldn't, among the elders who watched everything but spoke little. One, an old wolf with cloudy eyes, caught me lingering near the training yard. His voice rasped like gravel. "You look like her." I stiffened. "Like who?" His gaze sharpened, piercing through his blindness. "The one he lost." Chills raced across my skin. I opened my mouth to ask more, but his attendant rushed forward, ushering him away before another word left his lips. The one he lost. What did that mean? When I confronted the alpha later, his reaction told me more than words could. His jaw clenched, eyes darkening with something almost painful. "Don't listen to stories," he growled, voice low, final. But the way he avoided my gaze only deepened my suspicion. That night, another test came. The rival she-wolf, the one who'd sworn revenge, cornered me in the courtyard under the pale glow of lanterns. "You think one kiss makes you Luna?" Her laugh was sharp, cruel. "You're a barren whore. You'll never give him what he needs." I tried to move past, but she shoved me hard. My knees scraped stone. Before I could rise, he was there, like he'd been waiting for the moment. His hand caught my arm, pulling me up. His glare silenced the courtyard. Then, instead of anger, instead of punishment, he did something worse. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, a touch so intimate, so gentle, it burned hotter than his kiss. "Remember this," he said to the rival, his voice steel wrapped in velvet. "She is mine. Touch her again and you'll answer to me." Gasps echoed. The rival's face twisted, but she bowed her head, forced into submission. When we were alone again, my voice trembled. "Why do you keep doing this?" His eyes met mine, and for once they weren't hard or guarded. They were raw, haunted. "Because I didn't buy you to chain you," he said, voice breaking softer than I'd ever heard. "I bought you to save you." The words rooted inside me, deep and confusing. Save me? From what? That night I couldn't sleep again. My chest burned with too many questions. When footsteps passed my chamber, I followed quietly. The alpha and his beta disappeared into the strategy room, voices hushed but sharp. I pressed my ear to the crack in the door. "She's starting to ask questions," the beta said. His tone carried warning. "She'll keep asking," the alpha replied. "I can't hide it forever." "You should. If she learns the truth, I know." His voice cut, low and rough. "If she finds out, she'll hate me." The floor seemed to tilt under me. My pulse roared in my ears. Hate him? For what? What truth could shatter everything like that? I stumbled back from the door, heart pounding, the sparks of our bond suddenly laced with fear. The alpha had secrets buried in his eyes, secrets about me, about us, and I wasn't sure I wanted to uncover them. "If she finds out the truth, she'll hate me." His words looped in my mind like a curse, and for the first time, I wondered if I'd been sold not into chains, but into a destiny I never asked for. I promised myself I'd never love again. But then he touched me, and I told myself I wouldn't claim what could ruin me. He answered, but still neither of us stopped. We fell back onto the furs before the fire, his body above mine, strong yet trembling like mine. His lips traced my jaw, my throat, places no one had dared to touch without cruelty or judgment. "You're not barren to me," he said, the words rasping against my skin. Heat bloomed low in my belly, a heat that frightened me because it felt alive, a living fire that spread with every brush of his hands. I should have pulled away. I should have remembered the taunts of the pack, the shame of being sold. But when he whispered my name like it was sacred, the years of emptiness cracked wide open. I let him in. Hours passed in a blur of fire, sweat, and breathless surrender. When it was over, I lay tangled in him, his arm heavy across my waist, his heartbeat steady against my ear. For the first time in years, silence didn't feel empty. But then the heat shifted. It wasn't the warmth of passion anymore. It was sharper, burning. At first I thought it was just exhaustion, my body trembling from giving in to something I swore I never would. But then the burn spread, a clawing, gnawing fire deep inside my womb. I gasped and tried to sit up. "What is it?" he asked immediately, rising with me. His hands steadied my shoulders. The words broke into a cry as pain ripped through me. "Something's wrong." He caught me before I collapsed fully, pulling me against him as I clutched my stomach. The fire wasn't dying. It was growing. His fear. He lowered me gently onto the furs, panic flickering across his face. The alpha who never showed weakness, now undone. "Tell me what you feel," he demanded, though his voice shook. "Heat," I whispered. Inside me, like something's... Another cry tore from my lips. My nails dug into his arm as the pain spiked again. "Like something's waking up." His eyes widened. Not confusion, recognition. "What do you know?" I hissed, through the agony. But he only held me tighter, his chest trembling against mine. "You have to trust me." My vision blurred as another wave of pain crashed through me. My body arched against the furs, my scream swallowed by the night. The last thing I saw before darkness claimed me was his face. Raw fear in his eyes, his lips moving as if he whispered a vow I couldn't hear. And then the fire consumed me whole. She collapses, clutching her stomach as pain rips through her womb. Barren. No. Cursed. Her scream still echoed in the alpha's chamber long after her body went limp. The fire in her womb had been too much, searing, ripping her from inside out until darkness swallowed her. When she opened her eyes again, the room was dim, lit only by the glow of candles. Shadows danced on the walls. The air smelled faintly of herbs, smoke, and earth. She wasn't alone. 3 old women stood in a circle around her, their hands hovering just above her body. Their lips moved, chanting words she didn't understand. Beads of sweat rolled down their wrinkled foreheads, as if what they carried on their tongues was heavy. Her first instinct was panic. Who are they? Where's he? Then she felt it, his presence. At the edge of the circle, the alpha stood, tall, tense, hands clenched at his sides. His eyes never left her. "Stay still," one of the women whispered, her voice a rasp that shook with age. "If you move, we cannot see clearly." The heroine swallowed hard, throat dry. "See what?" Another woman bent closer, pressing her palm flat against her belly. The touch burned, not in pain, but in revelation. "There is no barrenness here," the woman murmured. "Only shadow. A mark. A curse." The word dropped like thunder. Her breath caught. "A curse?" She turned her head toward the alpha. His jaw was tight, as if he'd known. As if he'd been waiting for those words. "What do you mean, curse?" Her voice broke, rising against the silence of the room. "All my life, they've told me I was useless, that I couldn't give a mate children, that I was broken. And now you say it wasn't me?" "It was dark magic," the eldest whispered, "woven into you before your womanhood even bloomed. Someone didn't want you to carry life." Her body shook. Every cruel laugh, every whispered insult, every stone cast at her heart suddenly felt heavier. All those years. And it wasn't even my fault. Her eyes flew back to the alpha. "You knew." He inhaled slowly, stepping closer until his shadow fell across her body. "I suspected." Her chest burned. "You suspected? And you still bought me, still put me in front of everyone as if..." "I bought you." His voice cut through hers, low, steady, fierce. "Because I knew they were wrong about you. Because I wasn't about to let them break you for something that was never yours to bear." Her throat tightened. Anger and gratitude twisted together like storm clouds. She didn't know whether to scream at him or fall into his arms. The women's chanting grew louder, drawing both of their gazes back to the circle. "We can see its roots," the eldest croaked. "It is old, older than your alpha's reign, but it lives still, feeding on your hope, your bloodline." Her stomach twisted. "Can it be broken?" The room went silent. Too silent. Finally, the woman shook her head. Not easily, not without sacrifice. Sacrifice. The word hit like ice in her veins. The news spread through the pack before the morning sun rose. She isn't barren. She's cursed. And with it came whispers that burned hotter than before. If she's cursed, then so is he. He claimed her. He brought her into us. She'll bring ruin. She'll make us all barren. By the time she stepped outside the healer's hut, heads turned, eyes narrowed, and mouths curled in disgust. She pulled her cloak tighter, wishing she could disappear. From behind, a soft laugh slithered into her ears. "Well, well," the rival she-wolf purred, arms crossed as she blocked the path. Her beauty was sharp, cruel, every strand of her golden hair catching the sun like a crown. "I suppose Barren wasn't tragic enough. You had to add curse to your titles." The heroine froze, heart thudding. Around them, wolves gathered, eager for spectacle. The rival leaned closer, her voice a dagger. "Do you know what packs do to cursed wolves, little dove? They burn them. They bury them. Or if they're merciful, they throw them into the wilds and let the rogues tear them apart." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some nodded. Others whispered agreement. Fear spread faster than fire. Before she could summon courage, before her trembling lips could form words, a hand slipped around hers. Warm, unyielding. The alpha. He stepped forward, eyes like steel, and pulled her against him. His voice rumbled across the crowd. "She is mine." But this time, instead of silence, laughter rose. The rival's smile widened, poisonous. "Yours, yes. And when her curse devours you, Alpha, don't say I didn't warn you." She leaned in close enough that only he and the heroine could hear. Her whisper was venom. "You won't live long enough to regret it." That night the heroine couldn't sleep. The Alpha had sent guards to circle their quarters, but no wall of warriors could quiet the storm inside her. She turned to him finally, her voice breaking. "Why didn't you tell me you suspected? Why did you let me believe I was—" His hands gripped her shoulders, eyes burning into hers. "Because you already carried enough pain. Because hearing it from me would have felt like another chain. I wanted you to stand in your strength before I told you what lurked in your bloodline." Her lips trembled. "And now? Now that it's true?" His gaze softened, fierce and tender all at once. "Now it changes nothing. You are mine. Curse or no curse, I will not release you." Something inside her cracked then, not in despair, but in fragile hope. Yet even as his words wrapped around her like armor, her ears caught the faintest sound outside. A low growl. A shadow moved beyond the firelight, and then a voice, ancient and cold, hissed through the night. "I cursed her womb, and I've come to claim what is mine." An ancient enemy steps from the shadows, admitting to the curse. He risked everything for me, and now he might lose it all. The council chamber was carved in stone and shadow, lined with wolves who thought themselves kings just because they could sit higher than the rest. Their eyes weren't warm, they weren't loyal, they were sharp as daggers aimed at him, at us. "He is blinded," one elder spat, his voice like gravel. "Choosing her, choosing this barren girl, he shames the bloodline of alphas. The pack will not follow weakness." Their voices rose like a storm. Every insult was aimed at me, but every blow was meant for him. My alpha, my protector, my mate who had stood before hundreds and claimed me when no one else would. He stood tall, unflinching, his jaw like stone. Weakness? His voice cracked through the chamber like thunder. "Tell me, what is weakness? Following the same old lies until they rot this pack from the inside? Or standing up for the truth no one else dares to see?" The room quieted, but only for a breath. Then another voice cut in, sharp, familiar, his beta. Truth? The man sneered, stepping forward. The truth is you've lost yourself. You're risking everything for her. I won't stand by and watch you burn this pack to ashes. My stomach twisted. The beta, his right hand, the man who had sworn loyalty beside him under the moonlight. Betrayal dripped from every syllable, cold and final. The alpha's eyes narrowed, but his voice was steady. Be careful, old friend. The beta smirked. I'm not your friend anymore. I felt it before I understood it, like ice sliding down my spine. Something in the air shifted. A rift that could never be mended had split open, and the pack was watching it bleed. The alpha stepped closer to me, his hand brushing mine under the council's table. A silent vow. I will not let them take you. But I saw the fury flickering behind the other's eyes. They weren't here for justice. They wanted power. That night, the whispers spread faster than wildfire. They say he's cursed too. They say the girl bewitched him. They say the pack will fall if she stays. And beneath it all, a voice I recognized. The rival she-wolf. Sweet poison on her tongue, twisting every word so it cut deeper. But it wasn't just her. My curse wasn't only mine. I began to see the threads. The healer's words still echoed in my chest. This curse is not barren soil. It is bound blood. Power locked away. The alpha had known. He had seen through the shame. That was why he had chosen me. Not because I was nothing, but because I was everything they feared. The night of betrayal came without warning. The moon was high, the air thick with the scent of pine and storm. He had gone to meet his council, still hoping, still believing he could sway them with truth. I waited for him in the hall, pacing, restless. My stomach was tight with unease, my skin prickling. Then, a sound. A crash, shouts. I ran. The council chamber doors were wide open, splintered by force. Inside was chaos. Wolves snarled, claws raked, blood-stained stone. And at the center of it, him, my alpha. He fought like fire itself, but there were too many. The council had turned, and at their head, his beta, his brother in arms. You've lost, the beta roared, lunging. Steel flashed, a blade meant for his heart. I screamed his name, and he turned just in time, the blade sinking into his side instead. Blood. Too much blood. He staggered, but even wounded, he didn't fall. His eyes found mine, wild and burning. Run, he shouted. Run, before... But it was too late. Arms grabbed me from behind, rough and merciless. The rival she-wolf's face was the last thing I saw before the world blurred. Don't worry, she whispered against my ear, venom sweet. I'll take good care of your alpha while you're gone. The forest swallowed me whole. My body thrashed, my throat raw from screaming. But they were too strong. Wolves loyal to her dragged me deeper, my wrists bound, my skin torn by branches. I could still smell his blood. I could still hear his roar echoing against the stone walls, fading as the distance grew. And then, silence. When they finally threw me to the ground, I tasted dirt and salt. My lungs burned, my heart felt split open. The rival crouched before me, her smile sharp enough to slice. Did you really think you could rewrite fate? She purred. You, the cursed girl, and him, the alpha blind enough to love you? Her hand gripped my chin, forcing me to meet her eyes. He may have survived the blade, but without you, he won't survive the war. Her wolves laughed, circling me like vultures, but beneath the fear, something else stirred inside me. A spark, a heat, the same strange fire that had awakened the night he touched me. The curse, my curse. They thought they had broken me. But what if the curse wasn't chains? What if it was power? Back in the council chamber, the alpha bled but did not bow. His eyes burned with a promise that cut deeper than any blade. He would find me. He would tear the world apart to bring me back. But I knew this wasn't just his fight anymore. It was mine. The rival leaned close, her voice a whisper that froze my blood. You were never Barren. You were never broken. You were born to end him. And I'll make sure you do. They thought Barren meant powerless. They were wrong. The ropes around my wrists burned as I pulled against them, each strand biting into my skin. My rival's laughter echoed in the chamber, cruel and sharp. She thought she had broken me. She thought the alpha would bleed out on that battlefield while I rotted here bound and useless, but she didn't understand. The curse that marked me, the one that made the pack mock me as Barren, was stirring now. My veins burned like fire. Not pain. Power. I closed my eyes, and for the first time I stopped fighting it. For the first time I let it in. The ropes snapped, gasps filled the air. The guards who stood watch backed away as the strands of energy pulsed around me, silver threads that glowed from my palms. I wasn't just cursed, I wasn't broken, I was chosen. Barren Queen. My rival sneered, her fangs flashing. You'll burn yourself alive before you burn me. Her claws slashed the air, aiming for my throat. But I didn't flinch. The power surged forward, wrapping around her wrist mid-strike. Her eyes widened as the force yanked her back, slamming her against the stone wall. She growled, furious. What are you? My voice was steady, clearer than I'd ever known it. Not barren, not cursed. I am the fire your lies cannot quench. Outside, the battle raged. The alpha, my alpha, staggered against 3 wolves at once, his blood staining the ground. His beta's betrayal cut deepest of all. The one man he'd trusted most now fought to end him. But he wasn't giving up. Not even with blood pouring from his wounds. Not even with betrayal crushing his heart. He fought with the desperation of a man who had already lost too much and refused to lose me. Our bond pulsed through me. Fragile, unexplainable, but real. I could feel him bleeding. I could feel him faltering. And something inside me snapped. The doors of the chamber burst open as I stepped into the chaos. Wolves froze mid-battle. Their eyes turned toward me, the useless, barren mate. Only, I wasn't useless anymore. Silver fire rippled from my palms, spilling across the earth like a storm. They gasped. They recoiled. Some bowed without meaning to. Impossible, one whispered. She was cursed. No, another voice cut in, trembling. She's chosen. The beta snarled, shoving the alpha back against the ground. His claws pressed into the alpha's throat. See? He shouted to the others. She's a danger. Her power will kill us all. I won't let her destroy this pack. But I was already moving. Faster than I'd ever run before, faster than thought. I reached them just as his claws descended. Silver fire roared from me, knocking him off his feet and sending him crashing into the trees. The alpha collapsed to his knees, blood trailing down his neck. His eyes lifted to mine, pained, disbelieving. You... His voice was hoarse, broken. You're glowing. I looked down at my own hands. He was right. My whole body shimmered with the silver fire, heat radiating outward like a second heartbeat. And then, too soft for anyone else to hear, he whispered, Moon, help me. You're magnificent. The rival she-wolf didn't wait. She lunged at me, claws aiming for my heart. I met her midair, our bodies colliding in a crackle of fire and fury. Her voice dripped venom as she hissed, You can't control it. You'll kill him. You'll kill them all. For a heartbeat, fear clawed through me. What if she was right? The fire surged hotter with every second, wild and untrained. My power trembled on the edge of control, threatening to consume everything. But then I heard his voice. Not a command, not an order, a whisper. You are not your curse. You are my mate. The words steadied me. I pushed harder than I ever thought I could, and the fire obeyed. It flared out in a burst that knocked her back, leaving her gasping in the dirt. The pack stared, stunned into silence. I stood, chest heaving, eyes blazing with power that wasn't supposed to exist. And then I raised my voice so they could all hear. You called me Barren. You called me cursed. But tell me now, do I look powerless? No one answered. The rival tried to rise, blood at the corner of her mouth. This isn't over. But the alpha stepped forward then, battered and bloodied, his hand closing around mine. His voice rang out like thunder. Yes, it is. She is my mate. She is your queen. And if any of you dare challenge her, you challenge me. Gasps spread. Some wolves bowed. Others looked away in shame. But not all, because in the shadows I saw it, a flicker of doubt, of fear. And I felt it, the surge of my own power growing harder to contain. The fire inside me wasn't done. It pulsed harder, wild, fierce. The alpha gripped my shoulders, steadying me. Breathe. Stay with me. But my vision blurred. The silver fire spread outward, uncontrolled, ripping cracks through the earth beneath us. And as the ground trembled, I realized the truth. I wasn't just fighting my rival anymore. I was fighting myself. Together we stood, Alpha and I, our hands clasped. But the fire inside me surged out of control, brighter, hotter, wilder, threatening not just my enemies, but him. Would my love save him? Or would my curse destroy him? I wasn't sold. I was chosen. The battlefield still smelled of blood. Smoke curled into the midnight sky, painting it in hues of ash and fire. Bodies of wolves, some still whimpering, others silent forever, lay scattered like broken pawns on a board no one asked to play. I stood in the center, trembling, my hands glowing with that cursed light I still didn't understand. My chest rose and fell too quickly, each breath laced with fear and something worse. Guilt. Because the Alpha, the man who risked everything for me, lay just steps away, his chest scorched from my own unleashed power. No, 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 I whispered, rushing to him. My knees sank into dirt soaked with blood, his and others. His golden eyes fluttered weakly, but they found me, always found me, like I was the only anchor he had left. You didn't control it, he rasped, coughing red. It wasn't your fault. Tears blurred my vision. But I almost killed you. His hand, heavy but steady, brushed my cheek. Or maybe you'll be the one who saves me. A cruel laugh split the night. I spun to see her, the rival she-wolf, the one who had mocked me, taunted me, stolen any chance I had to feel safe here. Her silver hair was wild, her eyes burning with something darker than ambition. You think you've won? She spat. You think they'll ever accept a cursed Barren as their queen? Behind her, her soldiers, those who hadn't fled already, shifted uneasily. Even her beta ally looked uncertain, blood dripping from his temple. The Alpha tried to rise, but his wound kept him grounded. I stepped forward instead. My whole body shook, not with weakness, but with something new. Defiance. They don't have to accept me, I said, my voice carrying more strength than I thought possible. Because I accept myself. Light surged from me again, not wild this time, but sharp, controlled. The rival sneered. You can't kill me. If you do, you'll never learn the truth of your curse. My heart faltered. She knew. She had been part of this from the beginning. Then tell me, I demanded. Why me? Why curse me? Her grin was pure venom. Because power like yours should never fall into weak hands. And then she lunged. Wolves clashed again around us, claws raking, teeth snapping, but I only saw her. The rival shifted midair, her massive silver wolf crashing into me with bone-shattering force. We rolled across the dirt, her fangs snapping at my throat. Die, cursed girl. Her strength was overwhelming, but something inside me, the same fire that had nearly killed the Alpha, burned hotter, steadier now. My hands caught her muzzle. Light burst through my palms, searing into her fur. She yelped, thrashing, but I held on. This curse isn't a curse. I whispered through clenched teeth. It's mine. I pushed harder, the glow expanding, wrapping us both in its brilliance. Her snarls turned to screams, her body convulsing before finally collapsing in human form, defeated, eyes wide in disbelief. You were never Barren, she choked out, her final words twisted with spite. You were chosen. And then she went still. Silence fell. Wolves around us froze, their eyes darting from her fallen body to me, glowing, shaking, but still standing. The alpha, bleeding but alive, forced himself up. His golden eyes burned as they locked on me, not with fear, but awe. She broke it, one wolf whispered. The curse, another murmured. But I felt it even before their words. The heaviness that had haunted me since I was a girl, the cold emptiness in my womb. It was gone. In its place, warmth. A strange, fragile flutter I had never felt before. I staggered, clutching my stomach. My breath caught. It couldn't be. The alpha reached me, steadying me with his trembling hands. What is it? Tears spilled before I could stop them. I grabbed his wrist, pressed it against my belly. Life, I whispered. There's life. His breath hitched. For the first time since I'd met him, his alpha mask shattered completely. His eyes glistened, his lips trembled. Moon, help me, he whispered. You're carrying our future. The pack stirred, whispers rising like a storm. Some disbelief, some awe, some still heavy with doubt. She was barren. No, cursed. She carries his heir. The alpha turned then, his arm wrapping protectively around me. Despite his wounds, he stood tall, voice cutting through the chaos like steel. Hear me now, he thundered. This woman is no curse. She is my mate, my strength, my queen. And then, before the entire pack, before those who had spit at me, mocked me, rejected me, he pulled me close and kissed me. Not just a kiss of desire, but of claim, of defiance, of love made public. Gasps rippled, and then, slowly, one by one, wolves lowered themselves to their knees. The rival's army broke. The beta who had betrayed him tried to slink away, but the warriors dragged him forward. His fate would come later. Tonight was not his victory. Tonight belonged to us. The alpha pressed his forehead to mine, breathing me in as though to remind himself this was real. You saved us, he whispered. You saved me. No, I said softly. We saved each other. But even as the crowd knelt, even as his crown, bloodied but unbroken, was placed back on his head, I felt it. A whisper, a chill that had nothing to do with night air. The rival's last words echoed in my mind. Chosen. And beyond the borders of this battlefield something stirred, watching, waiting. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. I wasn't sold, I whispered to myself, meeting the alpha's golden gaze as the pack bowed around us. I was chosen. And for the first time in my life I believed it.